Hello everyone. Sorry I'm a little late this week with the video. This is going to happen. I'm going to be a little slow at times. I'm a very busy person and I don't always have free time to make these videos when I want. So I might go 2 or 3 weeks without getting a video up. It's just how life is. You know, I own a small business, I've got a family, I've got 2 YouTube channels, just a lot of everything going on around me, and it's a miracle I even have time to sit down some days. This week's video is going to be about bias, okay? Specifically media bias. Now, I'm going to talk about it from a statistical point of view. I'm not going to talk about it from a emotional point of view. We're going to use some science here. We're going to use some numbers. We're going to think. We're not just going to go off emotional cues. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The definition of bias, and I'm going to read this, is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Okay? Now, that is the definition from Google. I'm going to link everything at the bottom of the video like I normally do. In statistics, bias, and I'm reading the stat definition here and I'll explain it. In statistics, bias refers to the tendency of a measurement process to over or underestimate the value of the population parameter. In survey sampling, for example, bias would be a tendency of a sample statistic to systematically over and underestimate a population parameter. Now, I got to translate that because there's a lot of you out there who don't speak statistics. Basically, what they're saying is when you take a sample, the average of that sample should match the average of the population. If it doesn't match the population average, it's biased. Okay? So we got to talk about population averages real quick and where they come from and what do you do when you have numerical data versus categorical. Numerical data is when you have numbers, weights, measures. They tend to be numerical, like rainfall from year to year. That's numerical. Categorical tends not to be numbers, like hair color, gender, type of pet. These things are categorical. And this is important because different types of data have different types of averages. For example, weights, you're just going to find the average. You're going to add them all up and divide by how many you have because weights work that way. But I can't do that with the type of pet. Because you're not going to get a dog, you're not going to get a cat, you're going to get like 2.3 cats or half dog, half horse, and that doesn't work. So when it's categorical, what you do is you look for the most frequent, which is called the mode. Network news is categories. Fox, NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN. These are all different categories. So we're going to have to talk about the most frequent here. Okay? And this is a concept a lot of you are going to hate. I'm going to have some of you just stopping right now and going, "You are wrong!" How do you know when you have something that's biased and it's categorical? Well, for example, if you're walking around looking and the population all has blonde hair and you take a sample and it says black, then you know it's wrong. Right? You know you're biased. Okay? Now when it comes to network news, we're never going to know what's going on in the population because to do that you have to take what's called a census. That's contact every person in the United States. We're not going to do that. No one's going to do that. It takes far too much time. So we're stuck working with samples. And I got a bunch of samples here. Now, how do we know something's biased when we're working off samples? Well, do you watch something you find biased? The answer to that's no. I routinely don't watch MSNBC. They got too much craziness going on there. They got network anchors who lie repeatedly. You know, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was caught saying, you know, I did this, and the pilot in the helicopter with him said, no, you did not. And we go looking back into stories over the years, we find he's lied and embellished a lot. We have a lady wearing tampons from her ears because, well, something happened here in Texas. And various other just crazy things. The same lady with tampons from her ears came out one day and said, your children don't belong to you. They belong to the community, and the community needs to take care of them. I don't know where she gets these ideas. That's just crazy. But anyhow, that's why I don't watch that. I find it biased. It's my example here. Okay? Now, I know some of you are going to be like, he watches Fox News. I don't watch Fox News. We'll get to what I actually do in a little bit. So what we're going to do is talk about ratings, because ratings are an indicator of what people think are biased and what they don't. Ratings do change over time as networks figure out we've got to get our ratings up and they go less biased from what the United States wants. We're going to talk about the 3 network newses right now. ABC, NBC, and CBS. Okay? And I've got a data table in front of me on this screen, and I can move it over to this screen here. ABC, CBS, NBC. It looks like NBC has more viewership than ABC and CBS. It looks like the average viewers per night for NBC is holding pretty constant at 8 million viewers per night. ABC is about 7.5 and CBS is at about 6. Okay? So the 3 network news stations are all ranking about the same. So what I gather from that, looking at it, is that people in the United States don't find any of them particularly biased. They will flip back and forth between them and they'll watch what they feel like. They don't like CBS as much as NBC or ABC is what that says. And that could just be the person reporting the news. It doesn't have to be anything else. So what we're going to do now is talk about the cable networks and how they rank. And I've got that over here. This is Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN. Okay? Now this is for Thursday, August 7th, and I'm going to pull up the year averages in a second. On Thursday, August 2nd, Fox had 4 million viewers. CNN had 400,000. MSNBC had 400,000. Fox is 10 times higher. Okay? Now that's total for the day. If we go prime time, when the numbers were from ABC, CBS, and NBC, because the numbers I was quoting back here on this graph is from not prime time, evening news. We go evening news, Fox News is murdering them. 19 million people tuned into Fox News Thursday night. Now that could be just because of the presidential debate that happened. So it could be for that alone. No, it's more than 19 million. I'm not reading the numbers right because it's 19 million. Oh yeah, it's 19 million. Because they got it broken up in age groups after the 19 million. CNN had 500,000. CBS had 500,000. I mean, CNBC had 500,000. And you go back over here, these guys are getting 8 million. Fox had 19 million. They have 8 million. And again, that could have been about the debate, and I realize that. So we're going to talk about the one-year ratings here. It doesn't have it here. I'm going to have to find it, so I'm going to pause the video. Back in a second. Okay, I got it for Tuesday, August 4th. And yes, that was the, there you go. That was the debate that did it, because Tuesday, August 4th, in prime time, Fox News only has 2 million. So it looks like people think the networks are less biased than Fox News. Just calling it as I see it. But now we get over here to some other reports. If we start looking at the cable news network's ratings, this says Fox News Channel, the most watched cable news network for the 13th straight year. So for those that turn to cable news for their news, and these are most likely the people that watch news all the time, because come on, why would you go to network news, cable news, if you're not someone who watches the news all the time? They're ranked best. Okay? And that does bring up a point. You know, NBC is constantly, Fox News is biased, correct? Well, NBC has a different thing going. And let's see if we can find it in the data. Because I don't think they give it by age group. They do show that the ratings are decreasing consistently on evening news. But they don't do it by age group, whereas the other rating does do it by age group. Okay? So we have an issue here. I suspect that the evening news has the older generation watching it still. They grew up watching it, so that's what they turn to. I also suspect that the younger generation is watching their news on the cable networks. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it anytime. So if they just want to know what's going on, they're turning to the the cable news stations instead of network. So I suspect the demographics would back that up, and I don't have numbers for it. I'm not trying to defend Fox News. I'm just trying to explain a few things to you guys. Because when I look at it, actually, the numbers here aren't showing that. But again, this is for different set. You got different groups. You're trying to compare two different groups. And one thing in statistics is you can't compare populations that way. So what I can say is, people who watch their news on TV, you know, the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, they don't find the news biased because they're equally between the three. But if you turn to the people who get their news off the cable news networks, they find MSNBC and CNN biased and won't watch them. Now, the only way I can compare the two groups is MSNBC. MSNBC and NBC are tied together. And when you look at the cable news, no one's watching MSNBC. I mean, literally, you get 200,000 people watching it in the evening. 200,000 compared to millions on Fox. Fox is decimating them. Okay? Deci means 10. They're 10 times bigger. Well, they're 100 times bigger. So, my point here being is, if I'm looking for something that's unbiased, just off the numbers, I'll probably turn to Fox. I know if you watch MSNBC, Fox is so biased. They're doing that to keep you there. Now, to be honest, you want a good view of what's going on out there with no bias from the media. That's going to be hard because Fox does have some bias. But so does MSNBC. Here's a good test. Find a news story like Planned Parenthood and see how many times they post Planned Parenthood on their websites. You're hardly going to find it on MSNBC, other than they're attacking it. That's all you're going to find on MSNBC. NBC, it's going to be the same way. They're attacking, they're trying to defund it. They're not going to show anything about what's actually happening, how states are investigating Planned Parenthood and finding violations of the law easily. Okay? They're not going to show you that on those stations. So that's one way to check. Find some sort of news story you know is true and check it across the different news networks. You can check for bias that way. Another way to check for bias is to look at a lot of different news stories about the same subject and kind of average it, because somewhere in the center is going to be bias. Statistics people do that. It's called the central limit theorem. Okay, you take many different samples and you average your results to get an unbiased view. So you can try that. Now you can't go to a news service, Google News, Yahoo. These guys are biased. I hate to say it, but they are. Both of those companies give heavily to the Democrat Party. So they tend to be biased towards the Democrats. If you don't believe that, do exactly what I said. Start looking at the news stories that come up. And start looking at the news stories on other sites and comparing them. Now, who do you trust for the news? That's a good one. That's something you have to learn over time. Okay? Who's trying to honestly report the news? And I'm going to tell you, it's not MSNBC. It's just not. It's not CNN, because the head of CNN has reportedly said, people won't watch my global warming stories. I need to educate them on global warming. That tells me he's pushing that down the line. Okay? Another way to look at bias, and this is the last one, I'll try to find links for this, but I'm not going to stop the video, is to look at relationships. The Obama administration, in their upper tier administration, has the spouses of ABC, NBC, and CBS working for them. The head of the news organizations for ABC, CBS, and NBC their spouses are working in the Obama administration. That is a no-no to me in the news and for journalistic reporting, to be honest and fair. they shouldn't be working for the Obama administration if their husband or wife is the head of the news division, reporting on the Obama administration. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I'm going to find the link because that's not too hard to find. And I'll put it at the end of the video. I got to go. This is all the time I have today. I hope you learned something. Yes, my bias came out at the end. I know those networks are not honestly reporting the news because I've done the research. I've tracked stories and seen stories. If you want to look at an abortion story, and I'm picking on abortion because they're very biased towards abortion. In Pennsylvania, I think it was Philadelphia, there was an abortion doctor who was killing babies as they came out. Literally, the babies were alive, they were viable. If they'd been put in a hospital, they would have lived, and he was killing them. He was putting them in the sink and drowning them. When they caught his abortion clinic, you know, it was not all over the news. It was over certain news centers. So take a look at that one, search that one out. I'll find a link for that one too. So you guys can track it and you can check and see if I'm telling the truth. Okay? But I gotta go. I'm out of time for today. I'll talk to you guys later.